Economics made easy. First of all, what is demand? Well, demand is concerned with the behavior of buyers, and there's actually two types of demand. You have individual demand and you have market demand. Individual demand is the demand of an individual consumer, which indicates the various quantities of a good or a service the consumer is willing and able to buy at different possible prices during a particular time period, assuming that all other factors remain constant. And this we can also refer to as ceteris paribus, which we will have to get back to when actually talking about the non-price determinants of demand. Then you have market demand, which is the sum of all individual demands for a good. So the market demand curve actually illustrates the law of demand. But what is the law of demand, guys? So the law of demand highlights a negative relationship between price and quantity. This means that when the price increases, the demand decreases. And if the price decreases, the demand increases. So, the non-price determinants of PED. These are the variables other than price that can actually influence the demand. And before, when I said ceteris paribus, it meant that all other factors remain constant. But this is one of the factors that needs to be remained constant for there to be no difference in the demand, which we're now going to actually delve deeper into. So, what are the non-price determinants? These are the main non-price determinants, basically, you could say. So, first one is the weather. So, let's say someone is selling ice cream at a cold day in the beach, for example, or just in cold weather. The demand for it isn't going to be very high, even if its price is low, because it's cold. Why would you want ice cream? But now, let's say the price of ice cream is doubled, even, let's say, but it's a really warm day at the beach. You're going to want that ice cream, even though it's much more expensive, because you demand for it at the moment. It's really warm, right? So you're going to want some ice cream. Second, you have feel good, feel bad. So this is just basically your mood. So let's say you just got a promotion at work. Your demand for buying something luxurious, for example, a fancy meal at a restaurant, will increase than on a normal day, right? For example, even if you feel bad, like, for example, let's say now the opposite scenario. Let's say you just got fired. You might even feel bad to buy something as small as a piece of candy, right? Next, you have the price of complementary goods. So, let's say you have a hot dog bun, hot dog bread, and a hot dog toaster. So now let's say the price of hot dog buns now decrease. If the price of hot dog buns decrease, then the demand for the actual hot dog bun toasters will increase drastically, and there'll be a shift in the demand curve because you need the hot dog toaster along with the hot dog buns, right? But it's can also work the other way around. So now let's say you're buying ice cream and you have ice cream, just the normal ice cream, and you have ice cream cones. If the price of ice cream increases of that tub, then the demand for the cones, there'll be a shift to the demand to the left, because if you're not going to want the ice cream, you won't want the cone either, right? And the same way, if the price of the actual ice cream decreases, then the demand for the waffle cones will increase. Next, you have the price of substitution goods. So now, let's say you have, for example, you have normal energy, which we see every day around us, right? You have oil, petrol, so that we can say is normal energy. But then you also have renewable energy, right? And let's say the demand for the normal energy is actually quite high. It's doing quite well. But renewable energy is one of the substitutes, so people can also buy those goods. But now let's say that the price of those renewable energy resources increases. If that happens, the demand for these normal energy resources will increase drastically. There will be a shift in the demand curve to the right for these resources, right? That the same way, if the demand for renewable resources now decreases, if the price decreases, then there will be a shift in the demand curve to the left. This example was a bit more difficult and a bit vague, so let me give a better one. Let's say, for example, you're buying something really tasty. Let's say you have burgers, for example. You're buying burgers at a fast food chain, and it's at the average price. Now, let's say you have another substitute fast food chain, which sells the exact same thing, but they sell it at a lower price. If they sell it at a lower price, everyone's going to want to go there, right? So the demand for your actual fast food joint is going to decrease. So there's going to be the shift in the demand curve to the left, since there's actually another spot that's has more demand because it's cheaper. And even though you didn't change your price, there was still a change in the demand for your area, right? Next is income. So there's income in the case of normal goods and income in the case of inferior goods. So let's say you're trying to buy a really fancy car, but right now you have a normal income. But now let's say you got that promotion and now your income increases. So the demand for those luxurious goods such as a watch or that fancy car I was just talking about will increase. But you also have income in the case of inferior goods. So now let's say your income increases, but your demand for used clothes or used toys or just second-hand items generally will decrease, right? Because now you actually have that income to buy normal clothes, which you would find in a store, right? And then lastly, you have preferences and tastes. So let's say you have Ben and Jerry's ice cream and you have very low quality ice cream. Even though the very low quality ice cream is cheaper and the Ben and Jerry's ice cream price hasn't changed and it's a lot more expensive, because you prefer that taste and you enjoy it, you will still buy it at that price. Even though there was actually no change in the price, your demand changes directly based on your preference and taste. So in conclusion, those are the non-price determinants of demand. I hope you found this video very useful, and I'll see you guys next time.